Hey, what's going on, everybody? So we just wrapped up practice. I've got some instant reaction stuff I'd like to talk about. Coach defensive backs Travaris Robinson spoke to the media as well as some players, but I want to just get right into the observations. Today, 15 minutes we were able to watch of practice. There were some notable things I want to get to. First off, De'Aaron King was not out there. Looks like, I assume it's going to be Tyler Van Dyke, and obviously Jake Garcia will be ready to go as well. For this weekend, I don't expect De'Aaron to play this weekend. We will see if it turns into a long-term thing. Miami's got that ACC opener against Virginia on September 30th. So we will see if he's going to be ready for that one or if it's going to be a long-standing injury. Certainly something to watch for. But again, De'Aaron not out there today. Certainly big news. Another guy that wasn't out here today was offensive lineman Jalen Rivers, who's been starting the first 3 games at left guard. You heard Garen Justice last week say that he's been the best player on the offensive line. So that's a big loss. And just the way it stood today, it was left tackle Zion Nelson, Navon Donaldson at left guard, at right guard DJ Scaife, and at right tackle Jared Williams. And at center, going back to that, we saw Jakai Clark out there. So that's something to watch for. Jakai's not played yet this year. Coach Justice was just talking about how that, he feels like Corey Gaynor's been solid this year. However, if they need to go to a center, they're trying to redshirt Jakai. But look, if Corey's not getting it done, this team doesn't have any moves that they should just leave in the tank. They've got to put it all out there. So if they actually believe that Jakai's a better center, they need to get him out there, and it sounds like that's the move that they're making. There were other moves today that I want to note as well. Wide receiver Mark Pope has not been in the mix very much through the first 3 games. He was not dressed out last game. And today we saw him lining up at cornerback. That's a new move to us. Talking to Coach Robinson, he said that it's happened before, and I was able to ask him whose decision was that, because sometimes it does happen, not very often, where a player will approach the coach like, hey, I think I could help in this way. Or sometimes the coaches go to the player. But Coach T-Rob, he responded by saying it was Mark's decision. So that's just what he said. We didn't get a chance to talk to Mark about it. But he was able to get some reps today at practice. Again, working at corner. When asked if it's going to be a permanent move, he said no. He does think that he will still get some reps at wide receiver. So that's something to watch for. But again, it's just a guy that's not been in the mix. I remember covering Sam Shields' situation when he was at UM, and at that point it was a big surprise that he flipped over to corner. It was a guy that did really well. He had a monster senior year in high school, played it, started as a freshman at wide receiver, had a pretty good career, and then eventually he flipped to corner his final year, and then obviously you saw what happens. He goes undrafted, but then he has a very good NFL career as a cornerback. So we will see if Mark's going to be that guy, or even a Herb Waters, a guy that flipped after college and got to play in the NFL a little bit. So we'll see if Mark's going to be in that line, and just something to watch for. It'll be interesting to see how things go. While everybody expects more from Mark, I do think that he would be able to give the offense something. But at this point, he certainly has not been in the mix. They're going with different guys, and that's just the way it is right now. And certainly Mark had his opportunities last year at receiver, and he had some problems with drops. There's no question about that. So there's some other things to watch for. I think with this team, obviously moving forward, and one of the things that the coaches are talking about quite a bit is just the physicality of the team. And Coach Diaz says it's not just a defense thing; it happens on offense. So this is a widespread culture type thing with the program. Physicality is the number one thing in football. So to have this issue is not a good sign. It's not a good sign for a team with a defensive head coach. Let's be frank with it. So not good for Manny Diaz here. And again, with the defense, tackling is a huge issue. That's the number one role for a defensive player, is to tackle the ball carrier. And the fact that they're struggling with it, I don't feel like it's just something that they can easily fix. I don't think it's just this mental error. I think there's some ability stuff going on right now. They will try to make moves. We will see. This game, obviously, it's not a huge difference to make all these decisions and player moves. And there's some other stuff I've noticed, and you'll check out on the website on InsideTheU. I'll have a VIP stuff going more in depth with another thing that kind of caught my eye. And but anyways, just everything is getting ready for the ACC. They've got to be ready to play against Virginia at home to start off ACC play September 30th. And I know that they feel like they've got a lot to play for, so it's going to start there, because if they don't get all these problems fixed and corrected, if they're not a better team by that day, they'll lose that game. They'll likely lose at North Carolina the next game, and then you're sitting at 2-4 with even major question marks, even more than you have right now. So it's scramble mode for the coaching staff. The players are trying to respond. We did hear a little bit more energy before we got out there at practice today. We watched about 15 minutes. But the way it works is we don't get to go out there, but we stand outside a fence so we could hear it even though we couldn't actually see it. So we did hear that they were a little bit more energetic for whatever it's worth. But if they weren't energetic, and I've made mention of that at times too, I'd certainly report that. So just reporting what I see and hear, and you can take it for whatever it's worth. And we'll see. And the big thing with that kind of stuff, energy, tackling, physicality, it's not a one game, it's not a one day fix. This is something that has to be from here on out. And we will certainly see. And the practices this week, we won't be able to be out there, but certainly you want to see some strides on Saturday. I never can take too much away from games like Saturday when you play an FCS opponent. And certainly I don't want to overemphasize what happens on Saturday as to that, because like I said, it all comes down to what goes on in Virginia and moving forward, and we'll see if some things are corrected. Just some other notes today, maybe some things to watch for, pay attention to. I'll have some clips on the wide receivers as well. Coach Likens, very energetic, trying to get these guys going. Coach Robinson, same thing, just, we got to be physical. Like there's a point of emphasis. Some players talked afterwards. I haven't touched on that. Charleston Rambo was one of the guys that spoke to the media, as well as Elijah Roberts and Gilbert Frierson. And, it's typical stuff that you hear from Gilbert, just, got to be more physical and things like that. And, so nothing really breaking there. Elijah's certainly happy to be in the mix for a larger role than he got last week as that ninth defensive player, that ninth defensive lineman. And one of the things that he said was, he was asked about Leonard Taylor. Many of you are curious about Leonard. And just feels like, look, he's got all the physical tools. He's trying to keep him positive because Elijah went through it last year in terms of not playing. Obviously, Elijah was not as highly regarded as Leonard. So from what we weren't able to be at practice, but we didn't hear about Elijah nearly the way we heard and saw with Leonard in preseason practices. So a little bit different situations, but certainly Elijah would have liked to have gotten in there last year. So he's just trying to keep Leonard positive and feeling good about the situation. Understand it takes time, in particular on defensive line. So we'll see Leonard again today. He was in his regular 56 jersey instead of the scout team jersey that we saw a couple weeks ago, but last week he was in his 56 and didn't play. So I would assume he'll get in there. They get 4 games, even if they want to redshirt him, but I don't know why they're wasting time with it. They need to get him in there. He can make plays immediately. You're seeing it with Chance Williams. He's a guy that, he's playing about 15 snaps a game, but he's making plays out there. So when guys make plays for a defense that needs playmakers, I think you got to get him in there. So Leonard will probably play more, obviously, because it looks, you assume that the score will get out of hand. That's obviously the goal for these games. So one last thing before I let you guys go, and I just want to appreciate everybody for stopping by, that, for those interested, safety Avante Williams, who's suspended for the first 6 games of the season, he was out there today at practice. We saw him move around, do some drills. So just want to note that he was in scout team number 1, but he's still, as far as we know, jersey number 15. So just wanted to note that. But anyways, just want to thank everybody for watching. Definitely stay tuned. And once again, the VIP information, more information will be on the website, as well as more videos on the content. Definitely subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. But once again, thank everybody for watching. I know it's a tough time right now. So shout out to you guys for sticking with this thing. All right, take care.